Welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 84 for Monday, March 9th, 2020 from Zanata Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the news.
Well, before we do, we should let everybody know we're trying out video here for the very first time. So if you want to check us out on video, we've had quite a few people request that. You can do so. We're going to be posting these not only on Zanata.com, but also over on our YouTube channel. So they can look at our beautiful, bright, shiny, smiley faces, Tyler, every Monday now.
They can see how badly I need a haircut right now.
There you go. Oh man, what a week in news. What a week. We'll start off with some pretty bad news here. Zoho has canceled Zoholics due to COVID-19 fears. Man, I tell you what, it's a bummer. I don't even know what to say. You know, there's a part of me that says, gosh, is this an overreaction? Part of me that says, no, it's probably not. I don't know. I go back and forth depending on the day, but man, they're not the only people to cancel it. I mean, Google's canceled theirs, Facebook's canceled theirs, just event after event after event seems to be falling, although you do have some companies, RSA let theirs go off last week without a hitch. The Channel Partners Conference in Las Vegas is going on. You know, you have things like the Final Four, so people are still congregating places by the tens and hundreds of thousands. But anyway, Zoho unfortunately has made the decision that they are going to cancel the big conference, and if you have purchased a ticket, they will be issuing a refund.
Yeah, I think this is one of those rather safe than sorry situations there, especially when, they have a lot of people that may be traveling overseas to come to the event, either from their company or from, companies that are attending Zoholics. Because I mean, right now, I think last time I checked, there was a little over 200 novel cases in the United States, and I think they're just trying to not add to that count. Interesting couple tidbits though from the update here around coronavirus is that they have, as of March 4th, adopted a work from home policy as the default policy for all of their offices. So they basically flipped the switch and told all their employees work from home unless you have a great reason and an important reason to come on into the office. So it's kind of interesting, as more and more people kind of are working remote, you've got to wonder if big events like this or big health scares kind of drive more people to look to do that more.
Yeah, it's interesting too in talking to them. I mean, there's probably no company better geared to work from home, to work remotely, to have people work from remote offices. All of their software is around that. It has been quite a bit of a transition though, because people do come into the offices. I mean, in their Chennai office, I think they have 4 or 5,000 people come into that office alone. It's a big campus. Uh, but the whole world is doing it. I was talking to the people of the Pleasanton office around some things having to do with Zoholics and cancellation and some changes. And, you know, there were some delays and they said it's going to take us a few days to kind of get everything going because everybody's getting set up for work from home. But I think it's going to, the end of the day, be a good thing. And look, it works for us. We're almost 100% a Zoho house here, and all of our employees, Tyler, are remote. We all work remotely, and you really don't miss anything. I think, you know, the camaraderie occasionally, but other than that, I think you can get just as much done. I don't know about the programming side. I think sometimes it's good to have these teams that are actually developing products in the same room together working on it. I think there's probably something to be said for that. And I don't think it's permanent for Zoho. I don't think they're going to abandon their offices worldwide, but just another step that they're taking.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the one thing, when you do have a bunch of people in one place, you get that kind of, you might get some of the innovation happening there from a casual conversation that may not happen when you're all working remote. But other than that, yeah, it's a great way to get the job done.
Yep, and Zoholics isn't the only event that Zoho puts on. They have every week, they've got events that are going on all over the place. And so they basically have also gone ahead and canceled all of their meetups. So for almost all their meetups for Q1. So if you look, pretty much everything in March has been canceled. So all the user group meetings and various other meetups. So I've got a link in here of all of the user group cancellations and meetups, but they've also got a bunch of Zoho One and CRM and other things, and they're just all canceled across the board. So any of those little meetings that they had, they're not having them anymore, and they're gone. So anyway, that's kind of a bit of sad news. We are going to miss seeing everybody. We'll be at the developers conference in October. Hopefully this is passed by then. Maybe we can meet up with some people there as well. I did see a posting, though, that they are very excited about next year. They're planning. It's not like this is a permanent thing. So a one-off that's happened here. But okay, so hey, let's move on to some real news. Zoho, also associated with COVID-19, but Zoho is now going to extend a lot of the premium features that are part of Zoho Showtime to people who do not have the professional and enterprise level editions. So these allow you to conduct live online classes with 100 remote users, charger attendees. So all of the things that you might get if you actually had the full licensed version of Showtime, you're now going to get from free all the way up to June 10th. This is for companies that actually are canceling events and are saying, hey, we're going to do our event remotely. And so you've got all these companies that are doing events remotely. Zoho Showtime allows you to actually deliver those events remotely. So kind of as a nice little gesture here and a little bit of marketing, we have to say, they're going to give these features away till June 10th, 2020.
It's always nice when you can do something charitable, and nice for people, and also get the little marketing bump from it. It's a win-win. I saw that what's it called? They always change the name of this product. Google Hangout. They call it Hangout Meet now, or Google Meet. I don't know if they've
Yeah,
dropped Hangout all the way,
I think
but
they
they
did.
actually moved their enterprise meeting product to free for the next little while as well, in kind of response to COVID-19. So I think there's a lot of these companies that have those meeting softwares are, seeing some opportunity to be consciously altruistic.
There
Something
you
nice,
go.
but hopefully build people's habit. But I mean, hey, it's I don't want to make too much fun of them. It is a good thing to do, right? You're helping people still be able to be productive and either meet with their coworkers or join webinars and seminars, without taking any unnecessary risk. So I mean, as much as, again, it's funny to make fun of them a little bit, I think it's a cool thing to do, and hopefully it'll kind of help people try out Showtime, because we've been playing with it and it's a really cool product.
Yeah, we're going to actually do our webinar. We've been doing the webinar using Zoho Meeting, which has a webinar feature, but our March webinar, which is going to be on Zoho Campaigns, we're actually going to do it in Showtime. And so that's going to be kind of interesting. I'm really looking forward to giving that a roll and see how that goes. I think it's going to be good. And playing with it, it seems fantastic. But boy, if I hadn't settled on a show title of Zoholics Anonymous, I think Consciously Altruistic would have been the show title today. I don't know. All right. So let's move on to actual news having to do with products and updates. We're going to start off with a PSA, a little public service announcement for everybody. If you use Zoho Desk, and in using Zoho Desk, you have it so that people can actually go to your domain for support. So for example, support.sonata.com, that will take you to our support page. In mapping it, in the past, Zoho has used a whole bunch of different domains, such as customer-support@zoho.com and customer1-support@zoho.com or something similar. That has changed to desk.cs.zohohost.com. It's been that way for quite a while. And this is kind of like, hey guys, in case we haven't mentioned this, this is going away, and it's going away soon. We're actually recording this show on March 6th. The show is going to drop on March 9th. And on March 15th, that's it. Any of the old domains won't work. So you will need to go change your DNS settings to desk.cs.zohohost.com. That's where you're going to post that CNAME. That's basically where you're setting up a subdomain saying that support dot goes to this, so it maps to your domain. You'll need to go ahead and make that change. And so if you're using Zoho Desk, you need to do that sooner rather than later. If you've been set up in the last year, you're pretty much good to go. You don't have to worry about it, but it's worth taking a peek back there and see if you have an old domain associated with that or an old URL, and you'll need to make that change.
Cool.
Yep,
And
yep, yep.
rolling over to our next story here, coming from the world of CRM. This is something that we teased a little bit in some of the past podcasts, but they've officially announced the new UI for the record details page of the CRM. So the record details is when you actually click into a contact or into a deal and you see the full record with the related lists and all the different fields that that record contains. And basically what they've done is a total revamp of the look and feel here. So they do a lot more color blocking, right? Where they try to make the different sections kind of stand out on the page a little bit more. All of the different related lists kind of are extra highlighted. They've moved a couple elements around. So, for example, they move timeline up to the top of the page and it stays kind of at a fixed location. I think they're kind of doing some of these things because they might not be seeing as much usage of some of the features as they'd like to see. So the timeline view of a contact or a deal is actually really helpful, but in the previous UI, it just wasn't really highlighted how you'd like it to be. Some of the biggest, I think, updates are around the deals where they have a much, much, much nicer looking stage bar up at the top, as you can see in this first image up at the top of the page that we're looking at here, where before it was these little bubbles, right? And you kind of move it along, but now it's more of the traditional like stage flow that you'd see in something like Pipedrive or, another CRM.
Yeah, I like it. The only real big bug that we have seen is that if you have a text field and you're displaying that text field in a related list, it just runs on. It basically, and by the way, even though we moved around, I'm noticing this, it's not only, we thought it was maybe on uh, custom modules. It's on everything. So any related list that has a text field that you've put down to kind of show when you're in a record and you're looking at that related list in the record, if there's a text field in there, you kind of need to move it to be the very, very last thing because otherwise it just writes over everything you've got there. That still was there as of a couple of days ago. So again,
Hmm.
we're recording this on March 6th. They are saying in here that this should happen to everybody somewhere around March 9th, and that they're going to keep it till May 15th. Now you're going to have a choice here. You can click a button, which is called switch to the new version, which is going to be at the top of the record details page. So you can kind of make that choice to make the switch. Hopefully they will work some of these that little bug out. That's really the only major bug. That and a couple like what I would call blank boxes, just random. Since this is kind of more broken down into little
Hmm.
boxy areas, there are some empty boxes that just kind of float on pages sometimes.
Yeah, it's still one of the challenges with with some of their UI design is dead space. And it's better here for sure, right? Like if you look at the deal before and the deal after, right? The whole top right of that image, right? It used to be just completely empty space where now it's a little bit more useful there. Yeah, there are some of these boxes, right, that just don't really do anything or might be empty a lot of the time that still kind of show a little bit of dead space. But other than that, I mean, I think that the key like advantages of the new UI is sort of calling out some of the sections a little better, right? It's like when you're scrolling through a bunch of related lists and they're all just black text on a white background, right? That's not really gonna call out to you at all. Versus now each of the little related list sections gets its own little white box in front of the blue background, so it stands out a little bit more. So I
Yeah,
think
and
overall
I
it's a nice update.
I do as well. And I think that it's important to point out, we saw this at Zoholics last year. And I think one of the big disappointments, by the way, I have, you know, Zoholics is always where they announce all the cool stuff and what's going to come and the new products. So I hope that that still doesn't change. And they're planning on the end of April to do some sort of big announcement, whether it's virtual or not. At least get that keynote out there on stage where we can say, hey, here's what's happening, and maybe deliver some of these. And I think maybe they should deliver the entire Zoholics using Showtime, right? At least get all those sessions out there. There's no reason not to do them. But at last Zoholics, they talked about the ability to completely customize the entire UI any way you want. And what that means is moving all these boxes around. So using the new UI, they box things up. And now I believe that the second part of this is going to be, okay, now everything's in boxes. Now you can rearrange the boxes on the page and resize them. And I think that's where we're headed, and I think that's going to happen relatively soon. So we can look for that. All righty. So hey, this is an interesting one, Tyler. And I guess, I started moving to Zoho Sheet recently. And for those of you who don't know, Zoho Sheet is Zoho's version of Excel. And I guess I have not used it enough to know that they didn't have what they're calling Picklists. So inside Excel or inside of Google Sheet, you basically have the ability, if you want to create a pick list, in other words, you're inside of a cell and you want to have a little down arrow and you click and it gives you a bunch of choices so that you're basically maintaining a consistent format in that kind of cell. You normally do that by creating a data set. You can create the data set on the sheet you're on, or you can just create a separate tab, create a separate sheet, and you'll map to a separate data set and you kind of manage that pick list over there. Well, Zoho has gone to the next level, and they are actually allowing you to just very quickly create and edit pick lists on the fly. And if you look at the little video, for those of you that are watching our very first video here, it's slick. It's a way easier way to create these pick lists than it is in Excel. So I have to give them some credit for this. It's kind of nice little feature.
Yeah, one of the cool things about that I noticed as well is you'll see in that little video that they basically just drag down the list and create a pick list, and all of the different options that are in that column already are just predefined as options in the pick list,
Yep.
right? So you don't even
And
have to go and enter each individual one. It pops in with all the things that are already in the column, and then you can add anything else that you want to be there. So that,
and
I
it
mean, yeah,
only
you're
pulls unique values, because you
yep,
notice in the demo they're doing, they've got a bunch of duplicate values. So slick,
very slick.
very yes. I mean, to do this in Excel, you'd have to go down to the bottom of the column. You'd have to put in a formula equals unique, have it spit out the uniques. You'd have to copy the uniques. You'd have to go to a separate sheet. You'd have to paste the values. You'd have to create a data set from that. You'd
Do
then
a
have to pull that.
validation rule against the
Yeah,
data set.
you'd have to do a validation rule in the data set and pull it on over. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks. You're done. It's good. Slick, slick.
You can also even color code throughout those options. So you can see that, they have a priority list of high, medium, low, and they make the high option color code to red. So it's kind of a little pre-baked conditional formatting that can go into there. It almost reminds me a little of Smartsheet when we used to play around with Smartsheet, how you could set up super quickly these
Yeah.
different little pick lists and you could color code them and create those little rules. So nice to see them kind of take a cue from what I think is a really great tool in Smartsheets, and kind of just go ahead and roll it into Zoho Sheets.
Yeah, I mean, this is unexpected, and this is out of the box. I mean, it's kind of funny. I saw this, and I'm like, why isn't it like that? Why isn't it like this in the other spreadsheets that are out there?
Yeah.
This makes a whole lot of sense. So nice job, Soho. All right, so we've covered this. I'm not really sure we need to spend any time on this, but this came out. I found it in community, and it's BackStage, and we don't talk about it much, but this is a list of all of the updates that happened in BackStage last month in February. And I think we got them all, but I wanted to put a link to the article in here, kind of covering everything they did. If nothing else, it just points out just this continued development on BackStage, and the whole badge up feature that they introduced last month, which or I think they introduced it in January, allowing you to go ahead and design and create and print the badges directly from within BackStage. Yeah, if you're running an event, you take BackStage and Showtime together, you can sell the tickets to your event, create the microsite for your event, manage your event, publish the agenda for your event, badge everybody from your event completely using BackStage. And then you can do all of the presentations with the live Q&As and everything using Showtime. And that's what Zoho does at their events. And just that's a nice combination. So anyway, there's the list of updates for BackStage. I don't know if you had anything to add to that or not.
No, you hit everything I would say.
All right. What do we got next, Tyler?
Yeah, so we're looking at a new product offering for Zoho Assist. So they've announced a professional bundle for unattended access. And basically what Zoho Assist is a remote tech support software. So if you ever go ahead and like chat Zoho through any of their support chats, right, generally they're going to end up sending you a Zoho Assist link, which you can spin up, which gives them access to your PC, right? And they can go in and do some troubleshooting basically live in front of you. Now, what the Zoho Assist, what this update is all about is, basically being able to run from one primary location, right? So if you are a support technician who's working at a company with a whole bunch of different devices, you can actually configure what they're calling a distributor that you can actually remote in for with unattended access to a bunch of these different computers. So basically what that is that you can connect from one central location to a wide variety of distributed computers and basically pop in and do your tech support that way.
And the big deal here is the mass deployment of unattended agents. This is kind of the big change in this. So you now can just push out, and they're the agents you have to have on these PCs in order to have unattended access. They have to have a small agent running that's listening that allows you to connect to it and go ahead and view the screen and do whatever you want. So they really are stepping this up to enterprise level, like all of the other kind of remote access tools out there, and allowing you just to push it out across the network. So pretty pretty nice update, and that's really the big thing of this update right now. So and there's it seems like this whole the IT tool section, if you think about Manage Engine, which is their separate company that kind of has mobile device management, and then they're rolling some subsections of mobile device management in. It seems like Zoho is getting a little more serious about the whole IT management section of their product offering. We don't really talk about it that much, but it's a full suite.
Yeah, I mean they used to have it spun off as a separate company, right? It was kind of branded completely differently, and they've kind of brought it under the umbrella. I think a lot of the applications in terms of mobile device management and some of their specific IT ticketing software isn't included with Zoho One. But I would say some of the dedication to improving these products probably comes from the fact that they want to be more and more appealing to enterprise level customers, right? And most people that are at an enterprise level are going to want some type of mobile device management software or some way to do exactly what this update's saying they can do, right? Of pushing updates to a widespread system of devices, without having to remote in individually to each one to set it up. Right. So I think these are kind of updates specifically targeted at those bigger organizations which need some of those enterprise capabilities for IT management.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to our mobile updates. So, a couple of things here today. So, one I found just by kind of rummaging through updates on both an Android and an iOS device. And the other one they actually have an article on, and this is WorkDrive. So WorkDrive got a slew of mobile updates. I love this update that they posted because, usually they're kind of either unclear if it's for iOS or Android, or it seems to be for only iOS or only Android. But here is one where they're basically giving you all of the updates that they did for both iOS and Android, and they are different, by the way, similar in some, but different in the other. So they've added in some various features that are new. Pretty nice. I mean, the nice one is, scan and upload. So they really have gone crazy on the scanning side on iOS. I think it was built into the most recent version, this enhanced scanner. So
Mhm.
all of their products have really gone that level. The share files and folders with groups, we're going to talk about that in a minute with the new Chrome extension they did as well. This has been something that WorkDrive has been lacking, which is that ability to share internally and externally really well. And so we're starting to see some more stuff around that as well. Dark mode seems to be standard, some other stuff, but and then they've got drag and drop on iPad, so a whole bunch of stuff there. And then on Android, they've changed the upload experience and some other things, but honestly, it's nice to see these updates.
Yeah, we talked about it a couple times. One of these days we'll have to pull the trigger and switch everything over from our G Suite, where we kind of use Google Drive to host a bunch of files over to WorkDrive, because some of the like integrations that they have with other Zoho products around WorkDrive, I think could be really, really cool, at least for us internally, right? And just the fact that you can nowadays, the fact that they've got actually a migration tool for Google Drive over to WorkDrive, right? It should be a pretty painless experience to basically just map everything over.
Yeah, and before the show, we were talking. I had a conversation with one of our longtime clients this week, and he's a G Suite user, and he's really chomping at the bit to switch over to Zoho Mail, and then WorkDrive and Calendar and all the things that entails. And when did I think we? It seems like every year we try it, and you and I were talking about, well, maybe it's time again because I know we're huge fans of Zoho Mail. It's just fantastic. We can use third-party calendars. That seems to be the one thing that holds us back. But WorkDrive's gotten really, really good, and they have a migration tool now. So I think that would really be helpful because that was a big thing for us in the past, right? Is how do you migrate everything from Google Drive over to
Hmm.
WorkDrive?
It'd be a
Um,
nightmare.
yeah, so we're going to have to look at that migration tool. So we'll probably document that. We've talked about it, but I think we're getting closer to it. Maybe we'll set April 1st, or maybe this month we can just put a line in the sand and one weekend try to do the entire migration, see how it goes and document it and get the company on it again. Hopefully this time it'll stick and we'll say, you know what, we're done. But sooner rather than later, I would imagine. Hey, and then Zoho people got a kind of a cool little update for iOS, and it's so you got call directory integration, meaning that you basically can call directly from within the application and view the person's profile. Everything that sits in your contact manager at iOS will pull in. So you get all of the stuff inside Zoho People application. And then WhatsApp integration got put in as well. So again, these are just communication tools. You've got a candidate, they've come in, you want to reach out and you want to communicate with them. Well, now you've got both WhatsApp and call directory integration inside iOS. And boy, WhatsApp sure is taking everything by storm. It seems to be quickly becoming the default third-party text messenger that everybody's using.
Yeah, it's just massive, just absolutely massive application. I mean, it does a lot of stuff too, right? So, I mean, you can do video calls through it. It's kind of similar to, where all of these different chat tools are going, like Cliq and Slack. Those are more for internal communication versus WhatsApp is more of like a private messenger. But, really
Yeah,
cool just that so many different messaging tools spin up, all just going, around the SMS gate, right? And just directly through the internet.
yeah. Well, sir, you've got a pretty nifty implementation of the week. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one kind of comes from work that we did almost on top of a previous implementation of the week. So we actually had someone reach out about an implementation of the week that we did in the past around inventory management and forecasting inventory usage. And so they kind of came to us with a kind of augment of that requirement. And basically their challenge was that inside of Zoho Analytics, right, you can be processing sales orders. And let's say I've got an item that I've got 5 inventory on hand for, 5 stock on hand. So I've got 5 of these sitting in my warehouse. I get a sales order in for 10 of those items. Well, now I've got 5 of them that I can fulfill and 5 that we would say are on back order, right? Where I need to order these from my supplier before I can fulfill the sales order. So the whole process around that in Zoho inventory actually works great, but the challenge is that there's no consolidated view inside of inventory to see all of my back ordered items, right? So what ends up happening is you're running through all of your new sales orders that aren't fulfilled yet. You're checking which items are back ordered, right? You're making a big list. Then you go into each of those items and look at all the open sales orders versus the current inventory, right? And then you make your purchase order and send it out, right? And so the challenge is you really want to do it at an aggregate level, right? You don't want to send in 3 purchase orders for 5 items to the same vendor. You want to send 1 purchase order for 15. But there's really just isn't a consolidated view to do that in the default inventory reporting. So what we did, we had to make a couple different SQL tables inside of analytics, right? Kind of building off of the data tables that you can just pull directly in from inventory. So basically we have a table that calculates the current stock on hand for every item. the current amount of open sales order quantities. So if you've got 3 different sales orders for 5 quantity each, then the open sales order quantity is 15. And then we do that same calculation for the open purchase order quantities so that you can see if you already have purchase orders out for these items. Then basically what we do is we make a big summary table that groups all the different items that have more open sales order quantity than they do stock on hand, right? We group all of those by vendor so that you can put one purchase order in on all those different items, right? And then we compare all of that to the open purchase orders so that, if you already have a purchase order out for this backordered item, you don't put in an unnecessary second purchase order, and then you've got double the amount of inventory that you really want to carry. So it kind of just gives one sheet of glass, right, that you can look at and see all of these different items that need to be put on order basically before you can fulfill those variety of sales orders. So it's a pretty cool implementation, and I think one that anyone that's kind of selling a lot of inventory through Zoho Inventory would probably benefit from, just because it gives you a view that Zoho Inventory just doesn't quite have in its default reporting.
Yeah, that's impressive. And it's interesting. It seems like, there's two things here. One is you and the team have really, really been using analytics to fill in a lot of gaps. Right. They're like, well, this program really should do this. In this case, analytics should give you a single pane of glass to see all your back ordered items, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like that should exist in inventory, and you shouldn't have to do this. But on the other hand, there are some other benefits that arose from this. But analytics is kind of becoming this amazing little catch-all to do very, very interesting things that you just can't seem to do natively in the applications.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about it, I think, that allows us to do a lot of crazy stuff in there are the combination of formula fields. So you can take any of your data sets and create a formula field from them. So, for example, we talked about creating webhooks in there, and all those are just done with these formula fields that you can encode as links, right? And then the other side of it is being able to just run a full SQL suite inside of there. And I've talked about it on a lot of our podcasts, but it just means that you don't have to have a middle layer, right, between your CRM and between your analytics tool where you're reformatting all of the data, right? So when all this stuff actually comes directly out of Zoho Inventory, you can't use the base data tables to make this report, which is its own kind of challenge, right? Maybe they should think about reformatting some of those tables because the SQL here is pretty challenging to put together. But where there's a will, there's a way, right? And you've got all the data there. And as long as you don't pull your hair out before you finish your SQL script, you can create basically any data structure that you need to make these reports.
All right, well, you've been doing all the talking here, so you noticed. I didn't notice anything, or I think I did. One of the problems we have in this things we notice section is that if you don't write them down when you notice them, at least for me, I seem to forget them. But I guess you noticed something that stuck with you this week.
Yeah, so this was actually pointed out to me by one of our clients. They showed me this as something that they noticed when they were kind of playing around in analytics. We've been doing a lot of work there, and they've been doing a great job in kind of taking the torch and really wanting to learn analytics. They've been playing around in there a lot. And one of the things that they noticed is that inside of a analytics dashboard, right? And a dashboard is where you can store multiple different reports. You can actually stack filters, right? And so let's say, give an example of this. Let's say you had a dashboard that shows your pipeline, right? So maybe you have a report or two about leads and a report or two about deals, right? Well, one of the things that you will likely want to do with that dashboard is see it filtered by each sales rep, right? How many leads does this sales rep have in each stage? How many deals are they forecasting to close this month? And if you use just a standard filter, I'd have to filter by lead owner and by deal owner to filter that dashboard down, right? Because those are two different fields based on two different types of records. But what they actually let you do is if I just drag the lead owner filter on top of the deal owner filter, it'll join them. And now I have one filter that'll filter lead owner and deal owner because all the different options in those two pick lists are the same. So I don't exactly know when this feature came out. I can't claim to know. I just have never noticed it. I've never seen it in any of the product updates that we've talked about on the show.
Are you
But
sure it
credit,
was missing, or well, or is it
that's the
just
thing.
maybe?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever tried to drag a filter on top of another filter. I will say I mess around in that bar a lot and I've never seen it. It kind of highlights it, showing that you can
Right.
combine them. But it's either I've missed it for a year of working in analytics or they've added it kind of stealthily recently. But credit to our client, if you're listening, you know who you are, that I'm going to be using these a lot. So it's a nice thing to notice because it actually makes a significant difference in how easy it is to use a dashboard.
That's great. That's great. And we will know if there'll be some crazy little stealthy announcement over in the Zoho community forum in the next 2 to 3 weeks if this is new. Otherwise, it's probably been around a long time. Or sometimes you just never know. All right, move on to our reads of the week here. So, boy, oh boy, I am sure getting a lot of enjoyment out of this Zoho Day that Zoho had last month, where they had, depending on the article you read, anywhere from 60 to 80 analysts gather in Austin to kind of hear what's going on with Zoho. Um, and this is the last one I think that's going to come out. And the gentleman who wrote this, Thomas, I want to say Wybernate. Apologize, Thomas, if I messed up your name there. He's writing for Customer Think. By the way, Customer Think is just a great, great website. If you're not going here, I really recommend you check it out. We pull from it at least once a month. I think we make it our read of the week, but it's worth taking a look at. So this is, I guess, the last article we'll probably talk about on this Zoho Days 2020. But wow, every single one of these guys has seemed to have a different take and a different angle. And every time I read these articles, I just get just a little bit more sense of what they talked about. And I think that this one, last week I said that this was the ultimate Zoho Day article because it seemed to really go into it. I think this one may actually be the one that really, really kind of puts a highlight on every single thing that was gone over there. Some really good insight, and I'm not going to go into it here. Tyler, if there's parts of this you want to talk about, but it's well worth taking your time. And if you're interested in Zoho and what they're doing and where they're planning on going, this is a good article.
Yeah, I think I'll just highlight one little sentence here that I liked about this, is that he says that from his impression of the people that he talked to, right, at this analyst day, he highlights that they're interested in the outcome for the customer, not in positioning themselves. And that is something that I think is really, really true, right? And we talk about this all the time where, when we'll talk to someone and they're on the CRM Enterprise Edition, right? And they're paying about $30 a month, right? Depending on exactly when you signed up, there's a couple different pricings. And then we'll tell them, hey, for $35 a month or 30 a month if you go annual, you can actually get all of the Zoho apps. And people are always a little bit confused or almost even suspicious of like, okay, why is it so cheap? I'm getting
Right.
so much stuff. Why is it only $35 a month? And really, I think the answer is because they're just more interested in customers being happy and getting a bunch of value more than they're interested on maximizing every single dollar they could be making in revenue. And it's, I think, a long-term vision that, is really great about Zoho is that they're very, very customer centric. And we'll give them a hard time for a missing feature, a little bug every now and then. But, at the end of the day, they make great software at a really, really almost unreasonably attractive price point given all of the things that you're getting. So I like that little sentence in here because I think it encapsulates a lot about their business model.
It does, and the title of this article, by the way, is a true unicorn, which I think is kind of interesting because they really are. They have taken not a single penny from anyone, no, and they are billion-dollar company and multi-billion-dollar company, and good stuff all the way around. Hey, and then we got a couple other reads over at Zanata. We continue to produce a lot of content over here. Zoho campaigns, sending just-in-time emails. We're talking about workflows, synchronization between the CRM and campaigns, setting up what are called journeys over in Marketing Hub, workflows over in campaigns, how to automate that, put people into a drip campaign, all those kind of things. Worth taking a look at that. as well. And then today, we're actually dropping an article on BackStage, kind of give you an overview of BackStage, why you might want to consider it over Eventbrite. Remember, BackStage is the tool for managing your events, and take a look at that as well. So hope you enjoy the content we are putting out there. We enjoy getting it out there for you folks. All right. So Tyler, this is cool. You know, we talk about, gosh darn, we're going to move from Gmail over to Zoho Mail. And then I look at things like this and I say, do I really want to do that? But I think we do still. But anyway, so there is a brand new add-on that came out this week for Gmail, which gives you WorkDrive integration. And it's kind of interesting. So Tyler, you sent me this email with an attachment here. And so before, you know, you could always inside Gmail just hover over here and you're gonna go ahead and put this inside of, you know, your Gmail account. Well, now with the WorkDrive extension, it basically goes and it looks at the email, finds out who it is, and you can just go ahead and click through and say, hey, I want to drop this into one of my folders. And so, you know, I'm going to put this into the general folder, and then you can even create a folder inside that folder. You can just go ahead and save it there, and it drops it just right into WorkDrive. So pretty slick. Does the translation around it as well. So you can, you know, anyway, it just makes it a lot easier to save files. Additionally, you can do sharing directly. So if you are actually composing an email to somebody and you want to share a file folder with them, they've put another little the ability to basically just say, hey, what do I want to share? Hey, I'm going to share the CRM Zen folder. You can choose what you want to do, how it's going to be shared, you know, the entire thing, and go ahead and share that for them. So I just want to share a particular episode, or I want to share something having to do with it, and all the sharing features are right there. And so away you go. And very, very nice sharing features across the board. And then it drops the link in, drops the share in, does the entire thing. You can set an expiration on it. You can set their overall access views. All of those kind of things could be handled. This is a well thought out extension, and kudos to Zoho. So man, if you're using Gmail, all the more reason to switch over to WorkDrive now, especially as you start to make that transition. So good stuff.
Yeah, that's one of those extensions. Every now and then, we'll give them a hard time around not quite bringing something all the way across the line. So when we talked a while back about the Zoho Meetings extension for Gmail, it was like just missing a couple of those key things that would really make me want to install it and use it every day, right?
Right.
But this one, it seems like there was really no stone left unturned. Like they looked at everything you could do with the Google Drive to Gmail integration and basically point for point made sure that all that functionality was there, and they did a great job. The whole UI is super easy to use, and yeah, I mean, it's as you kind of joked about, hopefully that same functionality is around Zoho Mail if we're going to be switching over there. But it's a great extension, and we kind of joke about this because sometimes some of the coolest functionality that they'll do actually comes with integrations with products that aren't theirs, right? I think they just know that a lot of people are using Gmail, right? So they go ahead and just roll out functionality there, and it's like, hey, guys, make sure that's in Zoho Mail too, because we don't want to lose out on it for the people that are, all Zoho all day.
Yeah, it's nice when they do it right, I gotta say. And this one's great. All right, so let's go on to our tip and trick. I almost didn't put this one in, but I'll actually tell you a funny story. We haven't even talked about this. Is using two applications that we love, Cliq and Connect, and it's talking about tasking in Connect. And we've talked about this a few months ago. And for most of our day-to-day tasking, anything that isn't hugely project-based, we have moved 100% of all of that into Connect. You've got the whole team on Connect now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so every deal goes into Connect. And then Cliq is where we handle all the standard communication that goes on throughout the day. Well, with this, you actually can create a task in Zoho Connect, assign it to a board, do the entire thing, and you can do it from directly inside Cliq. So pretty nifty little integration, but boy, this is something, this must have been requested by somebody, because if you scan through this, it is, there's a lot here, Tyler.
So that's what we
There's
would call a non-trivial exercise.
Yeah,
That's
there is a
interesting.
lot. There's a lot of cut and pasting, a lot of form building. There's just a whole lot that goes into this. And so we're going to implement it. We actually have a new junior developer that's getting trained up with us. And so one of the things I actually asked him to do was to implement this. I thought this would be a good exercise to
Yeah,
go
hey,
through
why not?
this.
I mean, Click, and we've talked about this again, a little bit of a broken record, but Zoho really is trying to build more and more functionality into Click. At the last developer conference we were at, they had a cool line that they used that kind of stuck with me that was they want Click to be the command line for Zoho, right? And it's basically a command line on your PC, right? Is you can query anything that's going on and basically pull things up, right? And so what they're trying to do is just make Click a natural place to either access data or input data into a variety of Zoho apps. So, if it's a CRM, right, you can quickly query and link a deal in Click, right? So if Brett wants to highlight something that just closed or, wants to say, hey, let's talk about this in the pipeline, he can just link it directly to me. I can look at it in one click, right, and see everything that I want to see, right? And so they've got a variety of these tools and they're building more and more and more where you can really use all these different commands and Click to get a variety of things done super easily.
Yeah, so and it is interesting, it's trying to keep up with Slack and really go with those tools and see what you can do with Slack and how close you can get to it. And, quite frankly, they're doing a great job. And so we will see where it goes. Hey man, good show. Glad we finally got it on video. I think we'll see how this looks out. We recorded this using GoToMeeting. We may
Hmm.
play around with some other formats here over the next week. For those of you that have been asking for this show on video, we hope you like it. We're going to play around with the format a bit, like we talked about, and see what kind of the best ways to do this will be. Maybe it's even going to be a PowerPoint with links. I don't know. We'll play around, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun, right? I mean, other than I'll have to actually be brushing my hair every day now, which is kind of a downside. But other than that, I mean, I'm excited to start sharing the content in more and more ways. I think that being able to see the articles or things that we're talking about kind of as we run through might be a pretty cool value add. So let us know what you think. If you want to check it out on YouTube, leave us a comment if you have any feedback, right? Anything we can do different. This is new for us, so we want to make it as cool as we possibly can.
All right, and that is a wrap. If you've got any questions or comments, be sure to send them over to us at info@zanata.com or just head over to zanata.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. And now you can even follow us on YouTube to see our show there. We'll see you next Monday.
Bye-bye, everybody.